This is a Monty moment. I'm Johnny Montalbano. As we get you ready for the first NFL action in November, the month of decision in the league, and the week which we will officially hit the halfway point of the regular season, as the 136th regular season game will be picked and played this week. And there's a lot to look ahead to, which we will on Friday, but a lot to look back on, which we will do here. And it really all starts with a late night stunner, as the Raiders, who did not buy or sell at Tuesday's NFL trade deadline, did make a pivotal decision for their franchise's future late Tuesday night, as owner Mark Davis fired head coach Josh McDaniels and general manager David Ziegler, then later naming linebackers coach Antonio Pierce to the role of interim head coach. Pierce, who's just in his second season coaching at the NFL level, will make his head coaching debut Sunday against the team that he won a Super Bowl with, the New York Football Giants. Raiders also announced that Champ Gailey, currently in his second season as the team's assistant GM, will be the interim general manager in the time being, while they look for a new head coach, presumably next offseason. And of course, the news that broke on Wednesday that Jimmy Garoppolo will be benched in favor of Aiden O'Connell, who will start Sunday against the Giants. So to put it mildly, this is what a mess it is there in Vegas, especially all around McDaniels. You know, this all started when the Raiders did not bring back interim coach Rich Bisaglia, who helped them overcome a tumultuous year that included the resignation of John Gruden mid-season. Then they bring in McDaniels and Ziegler, hoping for stability. Instead, the two oversaw a franchise that produced just a 9-16 record through 25 games, including a 3-5 start to the 2023 season. And also a team that in 2022 went from 12th in points per game, yards per game, and total QBR to, in 2023, 30th in points, 31st in yards, and dead last in total QBR. Also, you've got an unhappy and understandably so wide receiver in Davante Adams, who, is he on the team or not, guys? I mean, what a mess there it is in Vegas, just to say the least. But we'll see how these interim moves make. But, you know, you've got players on that team, but you've also got a mess there in Vegas. And, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, it's also being felt around the league. But we're also starting week 9 off the trade deadline, first games after the trade deadline on Tuesday, which wasn't nothing, but also was not everything. And, you know, when we take a look at the moves that were made on Tuesday, going from most recent on, you did have the Bills getting cornerback Rasul Douglas from the Packers. The Bills also sent a 2024 fifth rounder to Green Bay. They also got a 2024 fifth rounder, that is, and Green Bay got a 2024 third rounder. The Lions got wide receiver Donovan Peoples-Jones from the Browns, so they added veteran receiver there in Detroit. The 49ers were a big winner to me. They got Chase Young, the defensive end, from the Commanders for a 2024 third-round pick. I love that move from the 49ers. If you've been watching them this year, the one thing they've not been able to really do is get to the quarterback, and now you've got a two-headed monster there with Young and Bosa, so a great move there. You got the Jaguars reinforcing their offensive line before the playoffs, getting Ezra Cleveland from Minnesota to shore up their offensive line. The Minnesota Vikings were able to add a QB after the devastating injury to Kirk Cousins. They get Josh Dobbs in a 2024 seventh-round pick from the Cardinals, who receive a 2024 sixth-rounder. The Bears got Montez Sweat from the Commanders for a 2024 second-round pick. And so those are good moves. I think when you look at the Minnesota move for just a second here, you know, they had to make a move for a QB. I mean, it was a very tough spot seeing Kirk Cousins go down there, but this is a team that's won 3 games in a row, still alive in the discussion. But Josh Dobbs, you know, he can be streaky. So if you get the right Josh Dobbs, that could definitely help them the rest of the year. But, you know, the big winners and let's take a look at the winners and losers, in my opinion here. My big 3 winners of the deadline to me are 2 that fall into the rich getting richer. But that's what great teams do. And that's the 49ers and the Eagles for sure. And I'm also going to put the Vikings in that list. As I said, you know, the 49ers are able to add another defensive player to get to the quarterback, which has been the one thing they have not been able to do so far this year. The Eagles, we saw what they did getting Kevin Byard from the Titans to help with their secondary, which has been an issue on defense. And the Vikings did get their quarterback. I mean, maybe not a star quarterback, but one who can definitely play there in Josh Dobbs, who's done pretty well there in Arizona. Now, my losers, I mean, you can almost say the entire league because with the offensive line situation, but I start with the Cowboys. I mean, honestly, you know, this is a team that I needed a running back, I think, to go along with Tony Pollard, And it seems like they just like to talk their way to victories, and they don't do anything to improve their roster. And, Derrick Henry was out there. I know that Minnesota wasn't really, Tennessee wasn't really high on trading him, but, I think they needed a running back to complement Pollard down there. You could almost say everybody who could use offensive line help, but I look at the Jets here, and yes, they were talking about some guys in the offensive line, but when you have a mostly favorable schedule coming down the stretch here, and you have a playoff caliber defense, I think they need to shore up that line for Zach Wilson and the running attack now. Again, maybe those guys weren't out there, but I would have tried making a move for somebody. And I think you also talk about the Washington Commanders. I mean, Jonathan Allen a couple of weeks ago was not happy. He was sick of losing a little over a week ago. And then you trade away Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Yeah, that's going to make him feel a lot better. So I don't know what's going on there in D.C., but we'll find out as we get you ready for Week 9 of the NFL, which we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about on Football Friday coming up later in the week. But let's get to the start of Week 9. Yes, it is Week 9 already in the National Football League. And we start with a Thursday night special of Al, Kirk, and Kaylee on Amazon with Will Levis and the Tennessee Titans taking on what looks like is going to be Kenny Pickett and the Steelers there at Aquashore Stadium. Now, Pickett says it's going to be him, but we'll find out if it definitely is going to be Pickett or Mitch Trubisky there at Aquashore. And the Steelers right now, a 2.5-point favorite, which has come down 2 points this week, and rightly so. And I'm learning the hard way here. The Steelers defense is being overrated. And it's coming into this game with a very thin secondary, which I think is going to allow Will Levis and this offense to put up a near repeat performance in prime time. The Steelers coming off of a rain-soaked game at home last week against the Jaguars, and they gave up nearly 300 passing yards and 7.7 yards per pass attempt. And on the season, only one other team has allowed more yards per game to opposing wide receivers than Pittsburgh. And their 7.1 yards allowed per game is the same mark as the Bears. Now, the Steelers' pass rush can still be a factor. So the way to avoid that if you're the Titans is to run the ball with Derrick Henry, who was not dealt at Tuesday's deadline. This, to me, is another situation where the battle comes down to the Steelers allowing a bunch of yards, but not that many points. But they're going to give up more in this spot. Game 1 of Week 9 is an upset for me. I'm taking the Titans plus the 2.5 over the Steelers at Aquashore Stadium to kick off Week 9 in the NFL. And if you like our Thursday pick, you're going to love our Football Friday picks coming up this Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Yes, it is Week 9 already, and we'll have the gang with me to preview, predict, and break down all the games here on Football Friday presented by our friends at Wolf Spreads. We will have our Wolf Spreads plays as well coming up, and we'll also break down the deadline and look at all these different quarterback matchups that we're going to get, these different ones, because as you found out this week, you've had trades being made with Dobbs going to Minnesota. Jimmy Garoppolo has been benched in favor of Aiden O'Connell. We also found out that Taylor Heineke will start for the Falcons instead of Desmond Ridder. So a lot of different quarterback matchups. Clayton Tune getting the start in Arizona. So we're going to have a bunch of different quarterback plays here, and we will talk about that and make our picks as well coming up for Week 9 in the NFL. That's Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for Football Friday presented by Wolf Spreads. For more, like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameOnETB. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Montalbano NY. Check us out also on Instagram at GameOn_ETB. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network, where if you like our Monty Moments, leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button as we are inching closer to 600 subscribers. And, of course, make sure you click on that notification bell so you know when all of our stuff is going to be coming out. Also, check us out at etbpodcast.com for great blog posts from football picks to fantasy angles to so much more. That's on our website at etbpodcast.com. Also, you can see all of our shows that are there as well. And if you can't watch us, you can get us on the go by downloading and listening to us wherever you get your favorite podcast. So I will see you on the Big Football Friday show coming up on Friday. This has been a Monty Moment, and I'm Johnny Montalbano.